Ladies and gentlemen, Thesis Body Mind Legion, hope we're having an awesome, fantastic autumn day, presuming that you're in my part of the world. Guys, postponed. The scheduled interview with Gaz, Lessons from the African Bush, is not going to be taking place right now. However, I do have a live talk ready for you as my good old backup contingency plan to make sure that you guys have got something to look at. So basically, I'm going to use the opportunity to talk about a few things that I've been wanting to talk about, some exciting projects that I've got on the go personally for me, and just give you a heads up of how that's going to play out over the next, coming weeks, coming months. So just a quick reminder, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that if you want to hear all of the talks and discussions that I do, either with my brother Gareth, ex-professional fighter, wildlife specialist, all singing, all dancing, expert in all areas, and the interviews that we've done with people like Simon Jeffries, Special Forces, Stephen Whitney, breathwork specialist, sports psychologists, nutrition experts, all these kind of talks. Okay, make sure that you hit the like button or the subscribe button, however it works, and you can tune in for those at a later date. Likewise, if you're watching this on Facebook, you can join the Thesis Body Mind community. There should be links somewhere, wherever you are, to download the Fitter Body, Stronger Mind ebook, which will give you all the essentials for developing awesome fitness and mental resilience. Okay, so make sure you go and check all that stuff out now. I'm going to talk a little bit about my 12 labors projects, which I'm working on over the next 12 months. Okay, essentially 12 challenges of varying types over the next 12 months. All right, or including the last month, because as many of you will know, I did my 100-kilometer ultra run, my first ultra marathon a month ago, and that was actually the kickoff to this project. But the idea of the project was still in its infancy, so I didn't kind of launch it or announce it at that time, just focused on getting that one event done. But I'll talk a little bit more about the 12 Labours project in a few moments. Equally, I've got a project just for the next month, which is my 30 Days of Good Habits project, which is looking at ways in which over a 30-day period, just 1 month, I can easily and practically enhance my physique, my diet, and my mindset just through really easy, practical, manageable habits that can be done each day. Okay, so that's going to be a really interesting one. I don't know exactly how that's going to go, all right, but I'll talk about the different things that I'm planning to do for that. And I'm going to make it so that ideally you guys will be able to follow that throughout the next 30 days, apply the same habits and principles into your own daily lives as well, and see what you get out of that. Okay, so that's going to be quite an interesting one. All right, so apologies that the interview isn't going ahead today with Gaz, but it is going to go ahead. All right, it's just one of those things. Real life got in the way of us teeing up together today, but that's just how it is. That's what happens when you do stuff live, people. So take that into consideration if you plan your own live show. Right then, so I'll start off with my 12 labours idea. This is something I've been toying with for ages. Okay, so like I say, September, 5th of September, I did my first ultra marathon. That was essentially labour 1 of 12 labours that I want to get done over the next 12 months. Just as a bit of a personal experiment, see how many accomplishments I can include in 1 year, practically and effectively, while still working, while still doing all the other stuff that I do, without sacrificing huge swathes of time out of social time and family time and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so basically the average person, I am the average person, all right? I'm no one special. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm an ex-Royal Marine, but there's thousands of them around. So yeah, it's just an experiment to see what I can get out of the bag and how I can grow and develop over the next 12 months in a variety of different ways, working on various different components of health, fitness, mindset conditioning, and all this kind of stuff. Given the situation at the moment, it might be a bit challenging to come up with a calendar of organized events. So I'm going to have to be quite smart about various ideas that I can come up with that will challenge me across all those areas. Okay, that aren't necessarily an organized event that's potentially going to get cancelled at the last minute. All right, and I would like your help with this as well. So guys who are watching this, if you're watching it live or if you're watching it later on, okay, feel free to drop any ideas in the comments or message me personally with ideas that you think could be good challenges or exciting or interesting challenges to do over the next 12 months that would test me in one of the areas of either fitness, health and mindset mastery. Okay, so ideas I've had so far. Obviously, I've done the ultra marathon in September. Okay, I'm doing a half marathon on Sunday. Now, people might think, how is that a challenge if you just run 100 kilometers 6 weeks ago? Well, I'm actually going to try and beat my PB, okay, in that run. So I think it's easily doable. Well, I say easily doable. It's probably not easily doable. I haven't trained specifically for half marathon in, well, forever. Probably since I was in the Marines and I was running that kind of distance more often. And that was about 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not something I've really been training for. Obviously, all the training I've done up to this point this year has been geared around very long distance, been very slow and steady. But I was having a look back through my logged personal bests for different distances and looking at my race predictor on my Garmin. So for anyone who hasn't got a Garmin or has one but hasn't seen this function, if you go into the settings on your Garmin, there's a race predictor page that you can have a look at there that tells you what it thinks you can achieve for the kind of main key distances in each discipline. And my race predictor for half marathon is, I think, 1 hour 33, which instantly gave me the goal of getting a sub 1 hour 30 half marathon, which I've definitely never done. I think the fastest I ever can ever remember doing one is about 1:35 when I was, like I say, training a bit more specifically for that kind of distance. And I haven't had a chance to test it in the last 6 weeks. Since I did the 100K, I haven't been doing a huge amount of training. I've been relying on the activity that I do anyway as part of my job to maintain my fitness, plus a couple of indoor ride sessions, and I've not tested any running distances at all. So it's going to be really interesting on Sunday to see what happens. I'm going to absolutely gun it, see if I can set a PB even better, see if I can get a sub 1 hour 30, and that'll hopefully be my second labor for the next 12 months ticked off and in the bag. All right, so those are the two I've come up with so far. Obviously, they're both geared around running, but I want to make it much more interesting than that. Over the next year or the next 10 months after this labor is hopefully complete, I'd certainly like the idea of doing an obstacle race, which I've also never done, never officially done a civilian obstacle race. A swim run would be awesome as well. I'd like to look at the chances of doing a bit of lifting again. Not many people know this, and not many people would assume it because I'm a relatively small guy anyway. But at one point, I was getting quite enthusiastic about strength sports when I was about 21 years old. I was doing quite a lot of lifting, and I even did a couple of amateur strongman competitions. And it would be interesting to go back to that, potentially have a look at doing maybe a powerlifting meet, see what I could achieve within my weight class, which would be whatever the smallest one is. I've lost a lot of size since I did my first physique show a couple of years ago. So it would be quite interesting to potentially look at getting another physique show in the bag, maybe look at ways I could get some of that mass back on but stay functional, and then obviously that would propose its own challenge in remaining efficient at endurance sports and stuff like that. So guys, if you've got any ideas for challenges and things that could happen over the next 12 months, especially ones related more to mindset, I thought about potentially particularly arduous meditation retreats, something like that, to really challenge myself mentally. Also, I've had the idea of potentially a prolonged fast beyond the 4 days, which is the longest one that I've ever done. I've been told that there's really interesting benefits to be had from a 7-day fast. But I am extremely hangry. I was definitely very hangry after my 4-day one. So I hate to think what I'd be like after 7. But anyway, that's another idea I've had. So guys, yeah. Anyway, long and the short of that one is 12 labours over the next 12 months, aiming to get a different personal challenge in every single month. How far I can push myself in that time, and if you've got any ideas for things that could come into that, then drop them in the comments. Drop me a message. Get in touch with me telepathically if you've got the gift, or whatever, however means you can find. So that's the 12 labours. That's going to be updated via on what have you over the coming months. Okay. So what's happening over the next month? My 30 days of good habits. This is an idea that I had when I realised I had not done or began Sober October, which was another idea that I had. I've got a lot of ideas and they don't always come to fruition, as you might have guessed. But I was thinking, 30 days of good habits. It would be nice to see, following on from the 100K run that I did, and then subsequent quite a steady kind of 6 weeks of not really training too hard and not being overly conscious about diet as I usually am. What could I potentially turn around from that in the next 30 days? So I'm basically going to break it down into 3 categories, I suppose. So the first one's going to be fitness. Okay. As many of you will know from the posts that I've done before, I haven't been doing a great deal of resistance training. It's all been geared towards endurance. I don't actually have a gym membership at the moment because COVID, and I found that I didn't really miss it anyway. I've got a pull-up bar in that doorway there behind me, which you can't see because the door's shut. I've got a fitness mat on the floor behind me. I've got a couple of rubber bands, and that's the only fitness equipment that I have at home. And I've been quite keen to see how much of that mass that I lost after the physique show and starting to train for endurance I could potentially get back through a very minimalist home training regime that I know many people are having to stick with since the pandemic themselves, and document that and see how that might go. So I'm pretty confident that I can get some pretty decent size and strength back through a 3-day-a-week program, just involving very basic home bodyweight movements. Okay, so I'm going to put that together. It's going to be a 3-day-a-week split. It will be something like a push-pull day, a stand-up, sit-down day, so like a squat day, and then core and I don't know, some banded resistance, some bicep curls or something around that 3rd day. But I'll figure it out. Probably be like shoulders, 2 upper body days and a lower body day. Probably it's ultimately going to end up being very simple, basic home movements. Obviously, this one's going to speak for itself in terms of results. I'll get some accountability pictures up of me, what I'm looking like now, and some measurements to make it interesting, and we can check those after 4 weeks, see how that's looking. The second category then is going to be diet. What changes can I make to my own diet over the next 30 days? So one of the things that I've really not enjoyed actually about the training for the 100K run, and the same thing last year when I was training for Ironman triathlon, is the high carbohydrate diet, which isn't something that necessarily has to happen if you're training for those sports. There are many athletes out there now that follow a low carbohydrate diet whilst training for endurance. That's very well documented. There's plenty of scientific literature out on that and how that can work and how it does work and how it's effective. But it does take time to become fat adapted to a lower carbohydrate diet in order to use that effectively for endurance. And I didn't give myself enough time for either of those events really to become effectively fat adapted. So I kept myself on a higher carbohydrate diet. ultimately, that's not a diet that sits very well with me. I am a person that can find it very difficult to focus if I'm not pretty stringent about maintaining my own exercise regime and a diet that fits me very well. I found in recent months, or certainly the weeks leading up to the 100K run and the weeks after that, when my diet was very high carbohydrate and starting to contain a little bit more alcohol than usual as well, that was really starting to detract from my sleep, my focus, my mood, and just my overall productivity. And it's started to become very apparent to me how heavily linked with my diet those particular aspects are. Okay, I used to pin them much more on exercise. It used to be my kind of idea, really, that as long as I was doing exercise, that would kind of keep my head in the right place. But even with the presence of exercise, it seems that when my diet is not, or is containing too much of the wrong things that I generally don't like to consume too much of, which is things like a lot of grains, more sugary foods, and like I say, a bit more alcohol than usual as well, my headspace tends to start to fall apart a little bit, in all honesty. So that's something that I definitely want to address over the next 30 days. I want to see how that changes, and I'm going to make a few changes to the diet, which is essentially going to be upping the amount of animal products in my diet. Okay, moving a little bit away from the higher carbohydrate diet. So looking at getting that protein up, getting the healthy fats up there. And another kind of change I'm going to make to that, tweak I'm going to make to that, is getting back to buying good quality animal products as well from the supermarket, because that was something that I always tried to do as much as possible. Okay, and when I talk about good quality, I mean high standards of animal welfare. Okay, so at the very kind of minimum, organic. Usually that means animals that have spent much more time outdoors, that definitely have access to outdoor space, rather than sort of, chickens that they say are free range but only have access to a small hole at the end of a massive barn, and this kind of stuff. So it's really interesting subject. Not many people too aware of the links between eating ethically and eating healthily. Okay, you can eat healthily without really worrying too much about the animal's welfare, but also food that tends to have been raised much better tends to have much better health markers as well. And what I'd like to do is get a couple of guests on, or at least one, over the next few weeks, to help clarify to me and to you guys exactly how that happens and what that means, and things to do with food labeling, how the health of an animal influences the health of the food that you're obtaining from it, and all that kind of stuff. So watch this space for that. I've got one person on my radar to contact. Fingers crossed I'm going to be able to get them in. If anybody knows anyone else who's in the kind of regenerative farming space, or up together academically on healthful food with a mind to how it's farmed and where it comes from, then by all means drop your recommendations into the comments, and I'll try to get hold of that person. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the nutrition aspect influences the mindset aspect as well. Obviously, in terms of the physique aspects, that's going to be pretty clear based on the updated pictures and measurements and so forth. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be interesting. Then the last category obviously is mindset. I used to have a really awesome morning routine that was just like the best start to my day ever. That was basically stretching, self-massage, breath work, and meditation, followed swiftly by breakfast and coffee. And they're pretty much staples of a lot of people's highly effective morning routines. And it really was the absolute best way for me to start my day. And then my schedule changed, and I've only really managed to sort of re-invoke some of those things back into most of my days, but not every day like I was doing before. And it's definitely had an impact on my mindset, on my productivity, on my mood, all those kinds of areas. And so I'm basically looking at ways to get back to that. At the moment, I'm just looking at keeping it very simple. Like I said at the start, I want it to be really practical, the steps that I take over the next 30 days, so that anyone who's keeping tabs on it can also join in and can potentially, even if they don't join in at the time, if you see the effects, it's something that you potentially could look at including your own lifestyle. So it's going to be a little bit of breath work and meditation done at least twice a day. And if I think of anything else that I'm going to add in there, then I will. So this is all starting from next week. All right. So from Monday, I guess, we might as well make it Monday. It's going to be 30 days of good habits. I'll put a little blog post update up on the website, which will share to everywhere. And obviously just put other regular updates up on social media as and when necessary. So anyway, I know that's not the talk that everybody was tuning in for. Okay. But gives you an idea of some stuff that's going on over the next coming weeks, coming months that you might want to keep an eye on, okay, that might be interesting for you. Hopefully it will be. All right, so feel free to follow on to those. I'm not going to waffle on too much more about that for now, okay? Just know that we have still got the talk, the interview with Gaz on lessons he learned from working as a warden on a conservancy in Kenya, befriending the local natives. Okay, one tribe in particular, the Wasa people, ended up inviting him into their family. Essentially, still very good friends with them now. He's attended weddings of theirs and all sorts of stuff. I've even been out to Kenya and met them and stayed with all of them, and they really are like family for him now, which is amazing for him to have this genuine relationship. But he spent a lot of time with their people, and they're considered to be the master hunter trackers in that part of Africa, which is quite interesting. He's got some super interesting stories to tell about his time out there and how that's impacted his own health and his own performance and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting talk when we do get around to doing it. Looks like it might be next week now. I'll try and get something else up together for you guys in the meantime to keep you interested this week. But for now, that's it. Guys, dare to accomplish more. Okay, download the ebook if you haven't already. Fitter Body, Stronger Mind. You can find it on the website. Okay, all the essentials you need for awesome fitness, resilient mindset. Okay, if you're ready to take the leap to elite peak health and performance, okay, there are spaces coming up on my exclusive one-to-one coaching program. So you can book a free call with me to discuss your goals and talk about whether we would be able to put together a strategy for you, and we would be a good fit to work together. Okay, you can find the link for that somewhere on here as well, I'm sure. If not, I'll put it on there later. But book in a free call if you're interested. We'll have a quick chat, see how it looks, and see if we've got some space for you on the program. Awesome, guys. Have an amazing rest of the day. Dare to accomplish more, and I'll catch you all very soon.